today, I want to look at the thoracic spine, the cervical spine, but also go through broadly the whole spine and how to assess the whole spine quite quickly whilst giving somebody a massage, because that's just an awesome thing to do. So please refer to my fairly weird handout. Where'd it go? I don't even have a copy. Oh, here it is. Mine got stained by tea. This one. So, yeah, some colors missing in this, but never mind. Oh, that's right. I had a better one I wanted to do. Never mind. So let's think a little bit about the thoracic spine and the energetic structuring of the thoracic spine. I want to present to you a schemata that I think is interesting, and we'll also just use this opportunity to review, what are the points on the thoracic spine, and then we'll, get into the practicalities of it. I think what I'll do is I'll just do a little illustration action. I'm just going to do like 12 circles to represent the 12 thoracic vertebrae. 12. Cool. So T1 through T12. So in order to kind of really explain what I think is going on with the energetics of the thoracic spine, I need to kind of talk a little bit about embryology and the position of the heart in embryological terms. So when the embryo is developing, at a fairly early stage of embryological development, you get this linear distinction in the embryo. At a very early stage of embryological development, the embryo is like a disc shape, and it's called the bilaminar embryonic disc. And then it produces a third layer inside of it, and it's called the trilaminar embryonic disc. And at this stage, the embryo is minute, and there isn't really any distinction of organs. It's just you've got endoderm, mesoderm, and ectoderm. You've got the three tissue distinctions that are formed. There's only three types of tissue at this point: ectoderm, endoderm, and mesoderm. So at a certain point in this embryological development, there is a line of energy that appears to move through the embryo, and it's called I think it's called the primitive streak. And it seems to emerge out of the mother's Ming Men, because typically the embryo attaches to the posterior wall of the uterus, right? So the posterior wall of the uterus is going to be in relation to the Ming Men, the kidney energy of the mother. And so emerging out of that zone of the mother's kidney energy, there's this line that separates the embryonic disc into left and right sides, and into superior and inferior, into sort of head and tail, right? And that primitive streak will then form the basic axis of the human body, which, from which we then see the formation of the spinal cord and the spine, and then the line of the vena cava and the aorta and the guts and so on. You get this linearity forming in the human system. So, and that linearity is essentially the chong. If you were to think about it in energetic terms, that primitive streak is what we would call in Chinese medical terms the chong mai, the original first channel of energy in the human body. So once that has formed, you can then examine the beginnings of the first organs in the developing embryo. And the tissue that forms the heart originates above the tissue that forms the head. So what you get is you get the heart tissue kind of literally above what will then later on be the head tissue. And here's the belly, right? So the original kind of way that humans are structured, really early in embryological development, is heart, head, belly. right? And I think that's interesting. I've always been kind of fascinated by that, actually. And then what happens as the embryo is developing is that the cells that are going to form your future heart start migrating into this area right here, right, in between your head and your belly, right? They migrate to what will form the future thoracic cavity. You know what's really interesting about the heart? Well, the heart's amazing, actually. We talk a lot about the heart. Actually, you know, the heart makes no sense from a physics point of view. Physicists have studied the action of the hearts of mammals and humans and so on, and they can't explain how it moves that much weight given its actual structure. I think it's something like the heart does the work of lifting a 1 pound weight 100 miles into the air every day. It's like, which actually, if you analyze it, is a bizarre amount of energetic output for its actual size and for what it actually appears to do. And it's an amazing thing. So the heart, if you look at the developing embryo, what you notice before the physical heart forms is you get two spiraling, intersecting currents of fluid. Right? If you look at the cytoplasm in the, is it the cytoplasm? I don't know what it is, but anyway, it's in the embryo, and you look at this area where the heart's going to form. You can see these two spiraling, pulsing flows of fluid, just doing their thing before there's any organ there. Nobody knows how or why they do this. So the heart is kind of like forming out of two spiraling, intersecting energies before there's any organ system there. And then we've got our little spirals here, and then the cells migrate down and form the actual, physical heart right there. So those cells that are migrating down, in essence, I mean, if you could look at this ordering, heart, head, belly, as a spiritual ordering, as an ordering of spiritual value, right? That the heart represents the spiritual qualities of the human that are at a higher level of expression in many ways than the head, right? And the head being at a higher level of expression than the belly. And there's a little area above the tissues that will form the heart. It's another set of tissues that also migrate down, and they form the septum transversal. The septum transversum is an embryological structure that cuts across the body, right through the middle of the body, and aspects of the diaphragm form out of the septum transversum, and there's a ligament that bisects the liver called the falciform ligament that also forms out of the septum transversum. So you've got this line across here that comes from this very, very higher level of tissue up here. Now, there's a teaching in the Vedic traditions, and actually it's even in ancient Chinese understanding, that there's two aspects to the heart. There's the left heart and the right heart. So the left heart, which is physically slightly to the left in our bodies, represents a state of ecstatic consciousness, basically. And so when people go into a level of spiritual development, that they go into a samadhi state, they'll often experience, tremendous bliss and ecstatic consciousness, and this is actually a quality of the left heart. But there's another quality of the heart which is known in Vedic thinking as the right heart, because it sits a little bit more to the midline compared to where your physical heart is actually located. And the quality of consciousness at the level of the right heart is of complete calmness and stillness and a contextualizing consciousness, that which can contain and hold awareness of everything with complete stillness and complete sobriety. So it's different than the ecstatic nature of the left heart. It's completely objective and not taking anything personally.